When you eat at Buca di Beppo, you're gonna eat big. There's no two ways about it. Today, we're gonna find out what happens when one man tackles a whole bunch of appetizers, a family serving of lasagna, and 4 entire desserts. No fanfare, no BS, no Stalin. This is another episode of Freak Eating. First round here. I don't know how people eat this late before. What's up, everybody? I hope you've been doing awesome since the last time you tuned in to my channel here. What you're watching is another crazy day in the kitchen dining area at Buca di Beppo in Claremont, California. The manager dared me to eat an entire family-sized pan of lasagna, but I insisted we needed to start things off properly with a proper appetizer order. Seriously, you can't jump into the main course without a warm-up, am I right? Just like when you're at the gym, you can't lift those heavy weights without warming up first. So I was warming up my digestive system with an excellent order of mozzarella caprese, which are really just stacks of mozzarella cheese with tomato, basil, and a little olive oil. I have no words really. They're damn delicious, and they look like the Italian flag with all that green, white, and red so scrumptiously represented with some key Italian foods. So basic, but so right. I could eat that mozzarella caprese all day, but since caprese is so light, I added in some of their cheesy bread, fried shrimp that was a bit on the spicy side, fried mozzarella, and fried calamari. There were lots of rich flavors here, but I have to say that the mozzarella caprese still stood out as my favorite. The richest flavor of all was still coming out of the kitchen, and I ended up having to wait a few minutes after finishing up the round of appetizers for the chef to bring it out. In case you're wondering, this entire meal was about 60 minutes from my first bite to the last, though obviously some of that time was spent waiting between courses. My drink of choice for the main festivities was Diet Coke, the unofficial favorite soft drink of most challenge eaters. But as you'll see, I switched drinks during dessert. I don't think Diet Coke is a good match for dessert, to be honest. I was joined for this challenge by John from Dine 909, a food blog covering restaurants in the Inland Empire region of Southern California. He live streamed it on their Facebook page, and I'm linking that down below in my description section just in case you want to check it out. When the lasagna came out, oh man, it looked like a slice of meaty, cheesy, greasy heaven. I hope heaven really has meaty, cheesy, greasy things in it, or that last line will make no sense at all. But seriously, as far as presentation goes, this family tray of lasagna looked wonderful. It looked the way I hoped it tasted. My taste buds were optimistic about what was about to go down. I know, I probably sound ridiculous, but I'd never eaten lasagna at an actual restaurant before, and everything here was telling me it was going to be an incredible experience. Lasagna is one of those foods that is totally underrepresented in the food challenge world, so I had an extra reason to be excited. So when I took my first bite, I was impressed. This is really well-made stuff. I don't even remember how many layers there were, but there were a lot. At least 8 layers of amazing were all stacked up and mashing into my mouth in unexpected ways with every bite. There was beef, there were loads of cheese, and heaps of rich, zesty marinara sauce, and sheets of pasta, and more beef, and more cheese, and more zesty marinara sauce, and more pasta, and more cheese, and, well, you get the idea. I don't mean to keep repeating myself here. It was so good that I didn't really notice how much of it I was actually eating. It felt like the type of food you could eat a lot of and not feel like you totally overdid it. Unlike the typical massive burritos I usually eat, where there comes a point where I'm like, is there real still any more? Huh, that's a mistake. Unlike the typical massive burritos I usually eat, where there comes a point where I'm like, is there really still more? With the lasagna, by contrast, I almost regretted the fact that I was eventually going to finish everything that was on my plate. The kitchen didn't know what the lasagna tray weighed exactly, but it couldn't have been less than 4 pounds. In truth, the food did start to feel heavy in my stomach toward the end. It was very filling food, if we're going to be honest about it, and it was coming after all those rich appetizers. Never mind the fact that I don't eat too many fatty or carb-rich foods outside of my food challenges, and you gotta believe that I was headed for a food coma that night. But before that food coma could get started, I needed to finish this feast. The only proper way to close out an Italian feast is with dessert, so I consulted the menu to figure out what I was going to get. The dessert menu is chock full of several sugary options. You probably don't think of Buca di Beppo as a dessert place, but low-key they really are. My eyes gravitated to the only choice the host of Freak Eating could appropriately make for a challenge, the Dolce Platter, which was incidentally also the largest dessert item on the menu. The server applauded my choice and gave me a high five. I made sure to add black coffee to my dessert selection because I had a feeling I'd need something warm and bitter to offset something so sweet and cold. So to give you the whole backstory, the Dolce Platter is actually a plate of 4 full-size desserts. You get a slab of double dark chocolate cake, a chunk of tiramisu, a big slice of Italian cream cake, and a big chunk of cheesecake. Since the kitchen was fresh out of cheesecake, I would be given 4 big chocolate chip cannolis instead. Each dessert was made to be shared between several people, so I was essentially trying to eat a dessert plate that was made to serve 12 people easy. And all this was after eating a bunch of appetizers and several pounds of lasagna. This was totally a smart idea. I didn't really think about how big this dessert plate would be, but when it came out, I could see what I was getting myself into.
A lot better than what it looks like.
Yeah, I bet. It's like 4 bunches of dessert. Go start with that cake. The cake was excellent. I'm surprised it was coming next. So I started with a double dark chocolate cake. It was sweet. Too sweet. You had the chocolate cake itself with some chocolate frosting on top, some chocolate cream inside. It was definitely worthy of being on someone's infamous last meal on Earth. The only thing I needed was some chocolate ice cream to help it down. The tiramisu was a strong dessert player, but it was neither overwhelmingly large nor overwhelmingly sweet. I guess it'd be a good choice for someone who doesn't like their dessert to come off too sugary. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm sure this tiramisu had loads of sugar in it, but the overall taste just didn't remind me of a bag of sugar. Now, the Italian cream cake was equal parts sweet and intriguing. The cake is lemon flavored and comes with a creamy cheese filling. You obviously have lots of white cream frosting on top and loads of strawberry sauce on the outside. Lots of flavor here, lots of textures and tastes interacting as you go. Probably the most interesting thing on the whole Dolce platter. And finally, we come to the cannolis. Chocolate chip cannolis. I'm not sure how authentic a chocolate chip cannoli is, but they definitely hit the spot. The outer shell had a solid crunch, the cheese inside was gooey and fresh, and the chocolate chips made their presence felt in both flavor and feel. I may have eaten the cannolis last, but it was a great way to end a great meal. Last, but certainly not least. I was thankful I had the coffee to help get these desserts down. The warmth and bitterness of the coffee was my secret weapon to overcome the sugar rush that was building with every bite. And just like that, it was all over but the shouting. Special thanks to Buca di Beppo in Claremont for hosting another amazing food challenge. And special thanks to John from Dine 909 for joining me and covering this event for a live stream. But more importantly, thank you to everyone at home on YouTube who watched this video and gave me another reason to stick with food challenges and food videos. Remember to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you won't miss another freak eating video. I will see you all in the next one. So until we do it again, stay in school, don't do drugs, and eat like a freak. Oh yeah, we forgot to answer that question. What happens when one man eats a giant feast? He goes home satisfied.